is Jalen Rose. I am David Jacoby. We are Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we do?
We get the people what they want.
Jalen Rose, the Warriors came out to play, yay. They hosted the Denver Nuggets in Game 5 at home, and it wasn't the prettiest performance, but they got the win. They move on to the second round, and they're starting to look like one of the more formidable teams in the NBA, led by Steph Curry.
And being led by their best players. He's eased himself back into it, scoring 30. I believe he made 5 threes, and doing it in an array of ways. And how Steve Kerr continued to nurture Steph, bring him off the bench, allow him to continue to increase his minutes, continue to increase his workload, is a basic residue of what they've done with this roster all season, allowing Jordan Poole to flourish into one of the most improved players and a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. Yesterday, Gary Payton II, who always gave you defense, but now when he's making shots, you can trust him more to play clutch minutes. And so giving him confidence. And then Draymond, as an anchor defensively, as a creator offensively, like the Golden State Warriors, I was not surprised that they took care of business and closed out the Denver Nuggets, but it was great to see the talent from within their roster continue to be contributors that now make them seem like the best team in basketball.
And we all know about Clay and Curry and Draymond, but they're getting contributions from Poole. And last night it was Gary Payton II who did it both offensively and defensively in front of his pops.
I love that so very much. And you know, GP, that's my brother. And to see him celebrate his son getting quality minutes in their home state, that's just a beautiful thing. And when I think of Gary Payton II, and shout out to Kuminga too, because he's a player that they continue to develop from within. I appreciate that father-son dynamic, and that's what I thought of when I saw Clay show up at the game with the bike, Jacoby. It was more like having an old soul, you know what I mean? Remember he was in the locker room early in his career reading the newspaper, you know, because he was modeling after what he saw his dad do. And so I appreciated watching these guys be able to be on the big stage, but also have a little fun with it. And also, you ride a bike to work all of the time.
You gotta go through security. Come on, Clay. Yeah, there he goes. All right, good. You know I love to ride my bike to work, and I'm glad that Klay Thompson does the same. Gets you a little cardio, get the body flowing before you go. The Bay Area is nice around this time of year. Big shout out to Klay Thompson. Now, Jalen, turning our attention to the Nuggets quickly, I feel like the Nuggets and the Nets are kind of in the same boat. They did not perform very well in the first round at all. However, they're looking at the roster saying, if we get Michael Porter Jr. back 100%, if we get Jamal Murray back 100%, we've got the presumptive MVP. Will they be a contender next season?
Yes, because of that guy right there. And the Joker got off to a slow start in this series, but did you see how dominant he was?
Yes.
What are you, high 30s, almost 20 boards,
30 points, 19 rebounds.
Right, like putting the smack down. Like, he was terrific. And the regular season, he deserved, in my opinion, the MVP because he did something historic. 2,000 points, 1,000 rebounds, 500 assists. It hasn't been done. And when you look at the roster of people that he's playing with, as you mentioned, no Jamal Murray, no Michael Porter Jr., yes, there'll be an ascending team in the West when those guys return, kind of like we're seeing from Dallas this year and Memphis as well.
I'm old enough to remember when the Bulls were actually giving the Bucks some competitive games early on in this series, but last night was not competitive at all. The Bulls got waxed by the Bucks without Chris Middleton.
The one thing about Giannis, I keep telling everyone, he's the best player in basketball. And I know people want to deny what they see, and I'm going to tell you why, Jacoby. It's the David versus Goliath theory. Like, you see a player like Kevin Durant, and it looks so poetic when he scores, and it's like so effortless, and you get enamored with people's shot making. It's more to being the best player than shot making. What about leadership? Giannis was a guy that doubled down and said, I'm going to be anchored in Milwaukee. Y'all keep the coach. We gonna win with Middleton. We gonna win with Drew Holiday. And they did. And you remember just this time last year when he was going to the free throw line and people were chanting and counting down? Are they still doing that?
No.
You know why? Because he worked on his game. He making mid-range shots. He making three-point shots. That's how you become the best player in basketball. Oh, and by the way, still an elite defender. Guarding multiple positions. Dunking all on everybody. It's no question right now to me who the best player in basketball is.
I agree with you there. Now, Mr. Rose, without Middleton, you need someone else to step up. And there's something about Pat Connaughton's game that I just like. There's something about, I don't know if it's his form.
You got to put him up on the wall of fame.
The way he plays defense. But truth be told, Grayson Allen and Pat Connaughton have stepped up in Middleton's absence. We still don't know how long Middleton is going to be out. But one thing I do know about the next round when they face off against the Celtics, it ain't going to be like the first round for either of these teams. There's going to be no sweeps. It's not going to be a 5-game series. That series is going to be so good when this Bucks team faces off against the Celtics. And Mr. Rose, I don't know what to do with this series coming up. We don't have to predict it right now, but this Celtics-Bucks series is going to be so good. I cannot wait for it. I will be locked in. I'm going to lock the door of my bedroom and turn the volume up to 100 for Game 1 on Sunday.
Chris Middleton is not going to play in this series.
We don't know for sure. We don't know for sure, but it's been reported.
Not good for the Bucks. Even if he missed 3 or 4 games, that's too many to overcome the Celtics. And you're right. Pat Connaughton and Grayson Allen, they're going to go to work against the Bulls. They ain't going to work against the Celtics, fam. You can best believe that, okay? I know you love your guys, but I really love Marcus Smart and Jalen Brown also. And Time Lord, he's back healthy, and Al Horford, the tenacity that they bring. Like, I feel bad for the Bucks that they're running into this opponent when they don't have Chris Middleton in the lineup. Drew Holiday, I know what I'm gonna get from him. Like, this would be a toe-to-toe, head-to-head heavyweight fight with Chris Middleton. Like, everything would be so very closely contested. But without Chris Middleton, it's just hard for me to see the Bucks and overcome the ascension of Jason Tatum in the superstar status in the second round if Middleton is going to miss 3, 4, even more games.
Before the playoffs even started, there was discussion of who there's the most pressure on, and people discussed James Harden and the 76ers. Well, there's a lot of pressure on Doc Rivers now that they went up 3-0 and now it's 3-2 and they have a Game 6 tonight. And Doc has heard all of us talk about his 3-1 losses and he clapped back. Let's listen to Mr. Rivers.
I wish y'all would tell the whole story with me, all right? My Orlando team was the HC. No one gives me credit for getting up against the Pistons who won the title. That was an HC. Go look at that. I want you to go back and look at that roster. I dare you to go back and look at that roster, and you would say, what a hell of a coaching job. The Clipper team that we lost 3-1. Chris Paul didn't play in the first 2 games and was playing on one leg. And we didn't have home court. And then the last one, to me, is the one we blew. That's the one I said, we blew that. And that was in the bubble. And anything can happen in the bubble. There's no home court. Game 7 would have been in LA, you know. But it just happens.
He's defensive. Doc sounds defensive, Jalen. What do you think?
The one thing about being a coach, in a lot of ways, you're hired to be fired. And for Doc Rivers, of course, it's only right. As somebody that was acknowledged to be one of the top 15 coaches of all time, you want to defend your legacy and make sure you challenge anybody who questions it. But the one thing I want to say is, did the Pistons win the championship that year?
No.
I'm in Detroit right now.
No.
You know what
his math is a little off. His math.
Oh,
he got his time. He's the real time lord now. He's the real time lord because the Pistons actually went on to add Rasheed Wallace and win the next year.
Got it. Because you know I'm in Detroit right now. And you know I was wearing a Piston hat to work. So I'm kind of invested on when they win the championship. And I'm like, hold on. Did he just give us another ring? You know what I'm saying? I'm like, and so, but here's the bottom line. It ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. it don't matter what he says. They lose this series, he can't be their coach going forward. You know it, he know it, and I know it. So it's up to them to go ahead and close the deal, which I believe they can, should, and will.
I agree. I also believe that they will finish this series and beat the Raptors. However, one thing the Raptors have kind of unlocked is a good way to defend Joel Embiid. They swarm him, they double him, they push him away from the basket. Can they continue to do so in Game 6?
They can continue to do so. And we knew going into this series, if the Raptors was healthy, it was going to be a dogfight. And they waxed them by 25 without Fred VanVleet, who was an all-star this year. That's how good the Raptors are, and that's how well coached they also are. The ability to OG Anunoby and Precious Achiuwa, and the young fella Barnes, like they're swarming like the killer bees. You said it. And Pascal Siakam basically playing a small ball center. He does that a lot in the East. He's basically unguardable if he's making his jump shot. So absolutely they can continue. And no Thibault in Toronto. You're down your best perimeter defender who gives you size. James Harden hasn't been able to beat people off the dribble. His field goal percentage is low from the field, from the free throw, from the field, from the paint, from the three-point line. Don't be surprised if this goes 7. So we're gonna continue to have this conversation until this series is over.
Wow, I would love for this one to go 7, and I would love just to see Doc Rivers on the sideline in Game 7 when he looks up at the scoreboard and they're down 10. He starts thinking about what could possibly happen. That is so much drama, but we'll be focused on tonight's game. Also tonight, we have another huge game. This one's in the Western Conference, and that man, Luka Doncic, he's back. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Mr. Rose, Luka Doncic is back. He looked good when he returned to the floor a couple games ago. He looked really good in the last game, and they face off against the Jazz this evening. I've got the Mavs winning this one. What do you have?
Luka is a dominant force in today's NBA, and I look at their roster and their team, and I keep wanting to give the Jazz the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, they got Donovan Mitchell. They got Rudy Gobert. They got Jordan Clarkson. And I'm like, Luka's so very dominant that they literally will likely win this series because of him. Jalen Brunson has ascended and played terrific.
Yep.
Finney Smith is giving them quality minutes. They're doing this without Tim Hardaway Jr., and I know how much you love Powell and the shooters that they have. I believe I'm done picking the Jazz and watching them let me down.
I know.
You know, the last couple of years, you know, I've been on, we got the Jazz. I've been trying to give them love. And let me tell you something they should stop doing. Stop putting Bogdanovich on Luka.
No, that ain't gonna work.
Let me just tell y'all that. He has no chance to guard him. He has no chance to guard him. So I now officially, I want to see Luka advance. So that's my choice now.
I would like to see that as well. Now, Donovan Mitchell did get a little banged up in the last game. We expect him to play this evening. And one thing that's been an underlying story throughout this entire series is if the Jazz don't advance, will Mitchell, will Gobert both be on the Jazz next year?
No. And that's just a progression in professional sports. You put a group together, you try to pay them top dollar, you hope they can gel and take it to the next level. And Utah's a light like Philadelphia in the East because you expected the last couple of years that they get to the conference finals, maybe even make it to the NBA finals with the guys that I mentioned. Same with Philly in the East. That hasn't happened. And then when you see teams come up and pass them, it's one thing to have the Warriors and the Suns, but then with Memphis and Dallas and you don't know what's going to happen with Denver and the Joker. And then when all of these teams start to pass you, that's what happened to Philadelphia, the Bucks, and then the Heat. And then all of a sudden, it's like the Celtics. And then then all of a sudden, a team like the Hawks eliminate them last year and make it to the conference finals. So this disappointing Jazz group of individuals, I agree with you, would be the last hurrah together if they get eliminated by the Mavs for sure.
Jalen, the Phoenix Suns, I had them penciled into the NBA Finals. They're just a cakewalk right into the finals. No big deal. Best record in basketball, best team in basketball. They'll be in the finals. However, Devin Booker goes down. All of a sudden, the Pelicans look pretty good. But can Mikal Bridges repeat his last performance and get this team into the second round this evening?
The actual answer to that question is yes. Because you know how much I appreciate, first off, somebody that's an Iron Man. Like, he don't miss games. And what happens when guys that don't miss games, like, you tend to take what they bring for granted because they're there all of the time. He's at practice, he's in the game, and he slowly started to develop other parts of his game. So now you see him handling the ball. Now you see him coming off screens. He's really always been a really good catch and shoot player and also a lockdown defender that can guard multiple positions. And he does something that I know you love. He plays without fouling. See, it's one thing when people play D and they gamble. Like, he don't gamble. So when the guy is long and athletic and wants to sit down in the stands and still ain't gambling and he's sliding with you, that's why he end up with those steals and blocks the way he does. So, yes, he's going to continue to play well, but this is going to be a long series. I believe D Book is going to return. Him returning is going to be the difference for Phoenix to advance.
Jalen, I'm rooting for the Pels tonight because I'm not ready to say goodbye to Jose Alvarado. You know what I mean? I want to see more Jose Alvarado. New York City's own. I want to see the big hair, the ponytail, the headband. I want to see him sneaking up on Chris Paul again, getting an 8-second call. I'm not ready to say goodbye to Jose Alvarado and this Pelicans team, who has been, I'm going to say, the best story of the playoffs thus far.
Hey, Jacoby, that's Grand Theft Alvarado right there. and for the bigs and the wings of the Phoenix Suns, I'm pleading with you. I played against Muggsy Bogues. These little guys like that, you gotta be in the backcourt and just set a little brush screen and give CP3 a running start. You can't have the best, oldest point guard in the league in the backcourt being harassed by somebody that's half his age. Like, come on, y'all gotta look out for my guy, especially without D Book.
That's a great point, Mr. Rose. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this, but the NFL draft is this evening, and your Detroit Lions have the number 2 pick. Will it be Walker, Hutchinson, Sauce? Who do you want the Lions to draft this evening?
I want friend of the show, fellow Michigan Wolverine, Aiden Hutchinson. You know who I want. Like, let's not even play those games. And I got a chance to watch so many great pass rushers come out of Ohio State recently and then get into the pros and become game changers. When I see him, he look like them. I can't even front. And so I'm like, if he can play for the Lions, you know what? I'm getting his jersey. We need to draft him.
Oh, you get a jersey?
I'm getting his jersey. You know
I've
what
never
I'm saying?
seen you wear a jersey in 10
pick.
years. I've never seen you wear a jersey in 10 years. And if Aiden Hutchinson is available at 2, I'm sure they will scoop him up. However, if Aiden Hutchinson goes to the Jaguars, friend of the show, Trayvon Walker, sitting right there, ready to get scooped up too. So either way, it's going to be a good night for the Detroit Lions, and I never say that. We have so much more to discuss, a very important